I didn't raise my voice. I didn't throw anything. I just paid attention. My name is Adrian Kessler, and I've built my entire life on one principle. You don't react when emotions are high. You observe when people think you won't. That evening, I walked into my house after a 12-hour day, loosened my tie, and stepped into the living room, and saw my mother on her knees, mop in her hand, head barely upright, breathing slow, uneven. For a second, my brain refused to process it. Not out of denial, out of precision. Because what I was seeing didn't match anything that should have been possible inside my own home. Then I heard laughter. Not loud, not wild, controlled, comfortable. My in-laws sat on the couch like they were watching something mildly entertaining. My father-in-law scrolling his phone, my mother-in-law sipping tea, and standing near the kitchen doorway, my wife, arms crossed, expression flat, not angry, not emotional, just indifferent. She insisted on helping, she said casually when she noticed me. Didn't you, Mom? My mother didn't respond, didn't even look up. That's when something inside me didn't snap. It aligned. I placed my keys down on the table, slowly. And for the first time since I walked in, I understood one thing very clearly. This wasn't an accident. This was allowed. I didn't go to my mother first. That's what they expected. Emotion, reaction, a raised voice they could dismiss, twist, or turn against me. So, I did the opposite. I walked past her, slow, measured, like nothing in the room had shifted. That got their attention. You could feel it. The slight change in posture, the way my mother-in-law lowered her cup just a fraction too slowly. Good. Let them watch. I stepped into the kitchen, poured a glass of water, and came back out, knelt beside my mother. Drink, I said quietly. She didn't argue, didn't question, just lifted her hand with effort and took the glass. That told me everything I needed to know about how long this had been going on. Not hours, long enough to wear someone down. I took the mop from her hand, set it aside, helped her sit back against the wall. Still no raised voice, still no confrontation. Behind me, my father-in-law let out a small laugh. Bit dramatic, isn't it? He said. She wanted to help. I didn't turn around, not yet. Because once I did, this would stop being a moment and start becoming a decision. My wife spoke next, same tone, same calm detachment. You're overreacting already. I knew this would turn into something. That word, something, like what I was looking at wasn't already enough. I stood up slowly, turned, looked at all three of them, not as family, as variables, and asked the only question that mattered. How long has this been happening? No one answered immediately. That pause wasn't confusion. It was calculation. My wife glanced at her parents first. Small movement, almost invisible, but I caught it. That told me something important. This wasn't spontaneous. This was coordinated. Adrian, don't make it a scene, she said finally. Calm, controlled, like she was already managing the outcome. I stepped closer, not aggressive, just enough to remove distance. It's already a scene, I said. I'm just deciding what kind. My father-in-law leaned forward slightly, resting his elbows on his knees, the posture of a man who thinks he's about to regain control. She's staying in your house, isn't she? He said. The least she can do is contribute. Contribute. I let that word sit for a second. Then I asked, contribute by doing what, exactly? My mother-in-law answered this time, light tone, almost amused. Cleaning, cooking, keeping herself useful. It's good for her. Useful? I nodded once, not because I agreed, because I understood. This wasn't about help. This was about position, about someone deciding where my mother belonged, inside my own home. I looked back at my wife. You knew, I said, not a question. She didn't deny it. She needs structure, she replied. You've always been too soft with her. Too soft. I felt something settle into place. Not anger, clarity. Because in that moment, I realized something most people miss until it's too late. This wasn't just disrespect. This was a test, and they were all very confident I was going to fail it. I didn't argue. That would have turned this into noise, and noise is where people like them hide. Instead, I walked back to my mother, helped her stand, slowly, carefully, like none of them existed. Come with me, I said. She nodded faintly. We moved past them without a word. I could feel their eyes on us, waiting for the explosion that never came. I took her to the guest room, sat her down, brought a blanket, a glass of water. Rest, I told her. She tried to say something, apology, probably. I shook my head once. Later. Then I closed the door, not fully, just enough. When I walked back into the living room, the air had changed, less confident now. People get uncomfortable when you don't react the way they planned. My wife spoke first. "Are you done?" she asked, like this had been an inconvenience. I looked at her, really looked this time, not as someone I married, as someone I had clearly misjudged. "I will be," I said calmly. Then I picked up my keys again. My father-in-law frowned. "Where are you going?" "I have a few things to take care of." That was it. No threats, no warnings. I walked out of my own house like nothing urgent was happening. Because urgency makes mistakes, and I don't make mistakes when something matters. I got in my car, closed the door. Sat there for a second. Then I made the first call. Not to a friend, not to family, to someone who handles problems without emotion. Because whatever this was, it wasn't ending inside that living room. The call connected on the second ring. "Evan." No greeting, no wasted time. "I need documentation," I said. "Domestic situation, potential coercion. I want it clean." A pause. "How far are we going?" "Far enough that no one questions it later." He understood. "I'll send someone." Quiet. I ended the call and sat there for a moment, watching the reflection of my house in the windshield, lights on, curtains half drawn. From the outside, it looked normal. That's the thing about controlled environments. They're designed to look harmless until you step inside them. I went back in 10 minutes later. Same room, same people, but something had shifted. Not in them, in me. My wife crossed her arms again. "This is getting ridiculous, Adrian." I didn't respond. I walked past her, straight to the hallway, and opened the small storage closet. Inside, mounted near the fuse panel, a camera, discreet, professional, installed months ago after a break-in scare. I never told anyone about it, including her. I turned it on. Indicator light blinked once. Recording. Then I walked back into the living room, sat down across from them, calm, centered. "Let's continue," I said. My father-in-law scoffed. "Continue what?" I looked at him. Exactly where we left off. They didn't realize it yet, but this wasn't a conversation anymore. It was evidence. And for the first time since I walked through that door, everything happening in that room was happening on record. No one noticed the camera. That was the first advantage. The second was that they still thought this was about control inside a house. It wasn't. "Go on," I said, looking at my father-in-law. "You were explaining what my mother's role is here." He leaned back, irritated now. The confidence wasn't gone, just pressured. "I already told you," he said. "She contributes." "That's normal." "Define contributes," I said. Short question. "People reveal more when they think they're clarifying." My mother-in-law answered again. "She cleans, helps with meals, keeps things in order. It's basic responsibility." "Required?" I asked. A pause. Then my wife stepped in, sharper this time. "Don't twist this." No one forced her. I let that sit. Then I asked, calm and precise, "So, she's free to say no?" Silence. That was the moment, small, quiet, but it changed the structure of the room because now there was a gap between what they said and what they could prove. My father-in-law shifted. "She doesn't complain," he said. That wasn't an answer. I nodded slightly. Understood. I stood up, walked to the hallway, and opened the guest room door. My mother looked up, disoriented. "Mom," I said gently. "Did anyone tell you that you could refuse to do this?" Her eyes moved. Not to me. To the living room, to them. That was enough. I turned back, walked in, sat down again, and for the first time since this started, I let a small silence stretch just long enough for all of them to realize this wasn't going the way they thought it would. My wife broke first. Not loudly, not emotionally, just a shift in tone, tighter, less certain. "This is getting out of hand," she said. "You're making it look worse than it is." I didn't interrupt her. Interruptions give people control. I let her finish and sit in her own words. Then I said calmly, "Say it clearly." She frowned. "What?" "Say exactly what you just implied. That nothing here is forced." Silence. Not because she couldn't, because now it had weight. My father-in-law stepped in, irritation creeping through. "You're recording this like it's a crime scene. It's family." I looked at him. "Then it should be easy to stand by it." That landed. You could see it, The moment people realize their own logic doesn't protect them anymore. My mother-in-law looked uneasy now, hands tighter around her cup, small cracks. I leaned forward slightly. Let's keep it simple, I said. If this is normal, we can review it together. Officially. My wife's head snapped toward me. What does that mean? It means, I said steady, that everything said in this room is documented, and if needed, evaluated. That word did it. Evaluated, not argued, not discussed, measured. My father-in-law stood up halfway. You're threatening us now? No, I said. Then I met his eyes. I'm removing ambiguity. Silence settled again. He sat back down, slower this time because somewhere in the last few minutes, they stopped seeing me as someone reacting and started realizing I had already decided what this was. No one spoke after that. Not immediately because the room had shifted from opinion to consequence. My wife was the first to move. Not toward me, toward the hallway. I'm checking on her, she said. Like that would reset something. I didn't stop her, didn't need to because whatever she was going to say in that room now wouldn't change what had already been established out here. My father-in-law cleared his throat. This is unnecessary, he said. You're escalating something small. I looked at him. Small things don't require silence, I replied. That ended that. A few minutes later, my wife came back, different posture, less certain. She's resting, she said. I nodded once. Good. Then I stood, picked up my keys again, but this time I didn't walk out. I walked to the center of the room. Here's what's going to happen, I said. No volume change, just clarity. My mother doesn't clean this house again. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. No one argued. That includes suggestions, expectations, or anything you dress up as help. Still silence. I looked at my wife. If she chooses to do something, that's her decision, not yours. Her jaw tightened, but she didn't speak. Then I looked at both of her parents. Your guests here. That word landed heavier than anything else I'd said. Act like it. I let that settle. Then I stepped back because this was the part most people misunderstand. You don't always need to destroy something to make sure it never happens again. Sometimes you just make it clear exactly where everyone stands.